You know, if there's one thing I've learned being a homeowner over the past 6 months, stuff is always breaking, which is bittersweet because I love repairing stuff. It's fun to make videos about it sometimes, especially if what you're repairing seems unfixable. That just makes the video more interesting and that much more special. But on the flip side, come home from work today, go to open the mailbox lid breaks right off. All I want to do is relax. Why is this gotta break right now? Took me about an hour to fix it, but after it was fixed, working good as new. So anyway, in today's video, I want to talk about a few products that I've found myself using almost non-stop since owning this place. And these products are out there, you know, it's no secret that they exist, but I think a lot of people are quick to replace things before attempting to fix them. So I just want to mention this is a completely unbiased video. I bought all these products with my own money. Company's not paying me. I'm not sponsored by them, although that would be nice, but rest be assured this is an unbiased video. So the products that I've been using more than ever are epoxies, two-part epoxies. I've been doing a lot of work on the hot tub. I winterized it over the winter and I'm just getting it up and going. There's something that broke on that and I fixed it with marine grade epoxy. And there's a few other general repairs that I've done around the house just using general or standard regular epoxy. You know, there's like a general epoxy and then there's special applications for different applications of that epoxy. So, you know, anything with water, the marine weld, great, general epoxy, almost everything else. And another thing I find myself using, not that frequently, but I do use super glue. Super glue is awesome for small applications where you want kind of a clean look. Like pottery and eyeglasses, like I said, but everything else, epoxy is just such a wonderful tool. So now I want to show you 3 repairs that I've done recently with the JB Weld epoxy that has literally saved me hundreds of dollars. Alright, so here's the most recent repair I've done with JB Weld marine grade epoxy. So this is a part for my hot tub. The hot tub's from 2005, so it's 15 years old. You know, it's running on borrowed time, but I'm confident I'm going to get it back up and working just fine. But this basically houses the 2 filters. There's water filter here, and there's also a water supply pipe. And the water comes through this pipe, and there's just a small waterfall right here. Well, these tabs that hold this plastic plate onto the hot tub body itself broke off. You know, normally people would think, oh, well, you know, oh, that stinks, it's shot, I'm just going to have to go buy a new one. Why not try epoxy first? And that's exactly what I did. Now, the color is off a little bit, but, you know, let's be honest, the hot tub's from 2005, it's barely noticeable. And there's also a top that sits on top of this, so this literally will be barely noticeable. But I just epoxied these mounting tabs back on, and they are fine. They will hold this in place just fine, and that is good as new. Alright, so here's epoxy repair number 2. Can you see it? No? Alright, let me give you a little backstory. So this is the master bathroom, and when I bought this house, the shower floor was literally falling apart. The grout that was used with the prior floor was not an epoxy grout, that was just a regular sanded grout, and it failed over time. So I ripped out the old floor, and I took a little mallet and I started beating things apart, trying to rip out the old tile, and I got it all out, but I got tired and complacent, and I ended up landing the mallet right here, and it broke off a piece of this marble. And now I'm sure you could very faintly see the repair there. And when I hit it, I was like, oh man, this is gonna stink. I'm gonna have to buy a new piece of marble to replace that. I'm gonna have to redo the rails. Oh man, what a nightmare. But wait, there's a better option. Epoxy. So I epoxied this back together. See, it broke off in 2 pieces. Epoxied that and epoxied that, and it's just about good as new. If you look hard enough, you can see the line, but look at the designs in the marble. It almost matches. Still got a few more things to do in here. Got to grout the walls, but really happy with how this floor came out, and pretty darn happy with how that repair came out. Here is epoxy repair number 3, and yes, it's a toilet. So a little background about how these toilets work. Basically, there's a holding tank right here, and after you finish doing your business, you go to hit the flush handle. The flush handle is connected to a little plastic rod, and then that rod connects to a little flapper valve via a chain. So if you ever find yourself hitting this little flush button right here and nothing's happening, pop open the top. Either this plastic piece broke or maybe your chain popped off. or maybe there's no water in the tank. So, you know, don't be afraid to dig into these things. But basically what happened, the connection between the flush handle and this plastic rod right here broke off. And you could see actually where I did the epoxy repair, and it works just fine. So if you did not attempt to repair these things and you just wanted to go out to the store and buy replacement parts, what would have it all cost? Well, let's start off with the toilet. I'm sure, well, I'm not sure. I think I could have gotten a generic flush handle probably for around $10. If I went directly to the company that makes the toilet, gave them, you know, the model information, I could totally see that little flusher valve being $25. Now let's move on to the marble in the shower. That piece of marble, it would have been tricky trying to match it for one, and then it has to be polished, and then it has to be installed. For the marble itself, I would guess that may cost around $200. And to get it installed, that may have been around $400. So let's just keep it around $200. So we're at $225. And finally, that hot tub piece, the filter housing / waterfall, unfortunately they don't make those anymore. I actually looked it up before even attempting the repair. They had something similar that cost around $200, but it would not have worked with my hot tub. So therefore, the only option was to attempt to repair or try and make something else work. And the cost of like a new one similar to that was right around $200. So the three things that I've repaired, let's say I've saved around $425. How much did it cost to buy each set of JB welds, like the marine grade? I think this was like $8 or $10 for the, you know, for the standard general purpose JB weld, same thing, like $8 or $10. For the Loctite super glue, it was probably like, I think I spent $6 or $7 on this. So it's just so handy to have around the house. Even if you don't have a house, even if you have an apartment or something like that, next time something breaks, before you even think about replacing it, try fixing it. Worst thing that happens, it breaks apart and you could JB weld it back together. Before I conclude this video, I just want to talk about how you use this stuff. Just do a quick overview of how you use this. So before you start mixing this stuff up, the first thing you want to do is prep the surface. So whatever you're gluing back together, it'd be better to have a porous or rough surface. So if you're trying to glue back together really smooth plastic, what I'd recommend doing is taking a razor knife or a screwdriver or a Dremel and just rough up the surface a little bit. Give something for the epoxy to grab onto, and that will just create a stronger bond over time. You know, it's the same principles in masonry. Make sure it's clean, dry, and roughed up. And then basically what you do, you take part A, take part B, and you squeeze out equal amounts next to each other, and then you mix the two together until they become one uniform color, which is typically like a dark gray. And then you basically put it on whatever you're trying to glue back together, and then just make sure that whatever you're gluing back together is clamped or held in place and that it can't move. Before you put your repair under any real pressure, best to let it sit for 24 hours, but I think it gets hard at around 4 hours, something like that. So there are a lot of applications for this stuff out there. It can save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a year. Great, great, great little investment. I'll leave a link in the description below, and I will catch you on the next one. Next time I repair something, I'll have to break out the video camera and catch the repair on camera. Should be incredibly exciting.